afternoon, everyone. Good morning to everyone who's still mourning in their countries. And we had a very wonderful session on the Insta Live with Aisha Al-Kouari and Hasiba Boumerka, the Algerian gold medalist. It was an exciting session. We were in the room, so we were enjoying every single bit of discussion, actually HIWAR going on. We're gonna continue in our last session for today. It's more about the job market. It's more about opportunities for placement, for career, related to delegates, related to students, related to all who have passing through on a learning curve and have reached to that end of that curve and would like to embark either on opportunities from a job market, from a career, and so on. We do have some figures from the local, from Qatar, and of course joining us also from the international scene. I won't take much of your time. I just wanted to thank you for all the esteemed speakers to join us today. And hand over to Mr. Michele, who will run and moderate the session. Michele, on to you.
Thank you very much, Vasco, and thank you for also for the coordination of this Instagram session with Hasiba and Aisha, which, as far as from our perspective, is a small gold medal for Josoor. So thank you so much, and it was I am sure it was a terrific conversation when I will be able to translate it for myself. Welcome everyone to the job market update, which is the closing session of this Josoor HIWAR 2020. And the idea is to provide our participants with an opportunity to understand the job market a bit more in depth at the moment, partly as a consequence, if any consequence, of the recent pandemic, but partly also in light of trends and changes which presumably were already taking place. And we are also interested in understanding from a skills perspective what it takes to become a young entrepreneur in hospitality and other relevant areas. Together with us today, it's a fabulous panel with Noor Altani, Program Officer of Silatec, Joao Frigerio, Managing Director of I Work in Sports, Spencer Taylor, Director of Education at Leeds United Football Club, and Duncan Walkinshaw, Director of Programs at Be-In Media Group. In terms of the structure of the session, I will be asking the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and to share remarks as far as their area is concerned. Starting with Joao, then Spencer, then Duncan, and then Noura. A small housekeeping information for those who want to follow the session in Arabic. They can go to the bottom of the page, they click on interpretation, and they click on French, which is not French, but is Arabic. So great. Again, thank you for joining us. Joao, you are, as part of your role, part of your leadership role in your company, you have to keep up to speed with the job market of the sports industry and related industries, and for example, events, which is obviously of high interest to Josoor. Yeah. Would you be able to share with us some of your latest lessons and trends, please? And if you would like to share some slides, you can share your screen directly from your computer.
Thank you, Michele. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet everyone. Good to see Vasco again. I saw him quickly. Have some good friends working there with Josoor as well, and of course with the FIFA World Cup. Now, let me very briefly just explain what I Work in Sport is and what I do. I have two roles. I work as a consultant in sports. Currently, my main consultancy job is with the FIFA Masters, the CIS. So I'm very linked to education. did a master's more than 15 years ago, and been collaborating with him for a long time. And I actually started to work more linked to this career part with the masters, supporting people to get jobs. We helped even someone to go and work in Qatar. And doing that job with the FIFA Masters and other schools, I created the I Work in Sport. That was born as a job fair only, an event that happens in May. So we bring companies, mainly the main sports federations, FIFA, the Olympic Committee, UEFA, equestrian, basketball, they all go there, agencies, IMG, team, football clubs like Juventus, Inter, Manchester City, broadcasters like EBU. Would be great to have been there at some point if you're looking for talent. And on the other side, we bring talented people that are finishing their masters. So I mentioned the FIFA Masters, but we have people from Coventry, the young Johan Cruyff Institute, yes, many other programs. Perhaps Josoor will profit from there as well. Now we expanded, we do some online events as well, and we've been doing research and providing knowledge through new career growth area. Now, one of the things that we have is a job board, and we also send newsletters for people interested in jobs, and we try to give advice. I interview people from the industry pretty much every week, where they share their knowledge, their experience to help people grow in their careers. Having said that, what I can say about the job market is definitely it's much slower than it was last year. And of course, it follows a bit of the perception of the pandemic. So a few months ago, companies, I think, were a bit more optimistic in terms of when they're going to hire again. Many of them were planning to already start hiring at a higher level or higher numbers in the beginning of the year. And now if you talk to them, they're still a bit on hold. Now, there are, of course, positions available. If you go to sort of sites like FIFA or the International Olympic Committee, some federations like that, you're going to find positions. Also in events, not many in events actually, because many events don't know if they're gonna happen. They're on hold. But of course, the Supreme Committee in Qatar 2022 is hiring. The other one that is hiring as well at the higher numbers is Birmingham 2022. And then there's a variety of roles that you find there. I asked my team to make a breakdown of the positions that we've been offering for the past weeks and what's available also in other sites like LinkedIn and things like that. And maybe later I can give you a breakdown of what are the skills that are more in demand at the moment, what positions that you can find the most, and also the level. I would say that's in many occasions companies are hiring a bit more higher level for directors still. I think because of the situation of pandemics, there's been some changes in terms of strategy, or they need to realign their strategy, where they're going to go in 2021 and further. And I think many companies are hiring at that level now before actually try to make up some deficits that they might have in their team. This is a very quick analysis that I did with my team before the call. Don't know if it's the same in the region there, but I took a very global perspective actually.
Thank you, Joao, and we'll revert to you with follow-up questions. Thank you. Spencer, thank you for joining us today. From the perspective of a large football club, but also as an educator, have you been observing the job market lately and the talent in and out from your organization? What would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you for the invite. Myself and Leeds United are very excited to be on the call. It's great to have a football brand involved with initiatives like this moving forward. I think from my point, just to give you an overview of where I came from quickly, I worked for the University of Sheffield for 22 years, where I headed up football and business strategy. And then I was lucky to get approached from a football club, Sheffield Wednesday, to go in and look after all their education side and build an education brand from start to finish, which is unique for a football club. I mean, if you look at the way a football club runs, it's usually the usual things of a manager, a coach, usually a sporting director, you might have a chief exec, looking at stuff like marketing and media. Football clubs now have used education as a leverage to create a different type of brand. Obviously, you've got the 11 players on the pitch. I think you move forward now to how the brand can be incorporated globally. Education is one of the big platforms, so I was very lucky to go and deliver that at Sheffield Wednesday, and then got headhunted to Leeds United to do the same, and obviously a partnership with Qatar, which is great. But from the job market, and I've seen a really big change on how it looks with every football club. Obviously, the virus has changed it a little bit, but not so much. And I think when the crowds do return, you see football clubs go back to normal from how they recruit. It's probably a little bit more unique as well, because you do see a lot of jobs advertised, but what they do look for is skill sets within the club. So I've always recommended to look for internships within a football club or get a work placement within a football club, because they like to see your skill sets in front of their own eyes. And I think that's great from one aspect of they're looking at the talent and how they work in the industry. And a lot of football clubs now are giving internships, and they're giving internships with quality. So whether they're 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, they are giving a lot of feedback and projects for you to design and launch, and then the clubs will go and use them projects. I've seen that in a number of times with Leeds United. From a scope of job as well, I think we're unique from probably any other business, because we go right across the board. So 1 minute you could have a job for sporting director at Leeds United working with Marcelo, and then you could go right to a coach, you could go to IT, you could then go to marketing, you might switch across to media, and then we have foundation. So every football club in the UK, definitely the UK, has a charity arm to its brand. So that does all the school work, the development work such as NCS. So you can look under one roof and probably look at 200 jobs within that one brand. I'm very excited, definitely to be on this call, because I think football in general is looking for the skill sets, probably more than any other business, because I think the growth in football, whether it's through TV or through sponsorship or crowds going back, will look at the job market and it will expand. And I never thought, to be honest, within football I'd see stuff like sports science being the top of the list within a football club, or strength and conditioning now is essential to what we do at Leeds United. And if you look at the stuff that we're trying to do, obviously quickly, we are now partnering with organisations such as obviously Josoor, University of Salford, Leeds Beckett, to create our own type of degree that will satisfy the market. So I know individuals on this platform look at football business degrees and football business in masters, and I think they're getting more designed for what's specifically needed within the football industry. Before, I think you looked and saw that there'd be elements and modules that might fit, but now you've got experts within football that are saying these are the criteria and skill sets that we need. These are the type of skill sets that will be used in football. So let's work together and get the right individuals. But just to finish off, I think internships are great now, and I really, if people are going through their degree program and they can get an internship at any UK club or global club, that for me is a very good way to get in, because like I said, the football clubs are looking at how you work within the club, and it is a pressure cooker as well. It is a high speed environment, and it works at quick pace. So that for me, the job market is very strong, but they will look at very strong skill sets as well. So again, internships for me are opening up very, very quickly within football clubs.
Thank you, Spencer. Can I just ask you a quick follow-up question, just a quick one? When you say internships, are internships for example, young graduates out of college, or for example, shadowing opportunities also for more senior professionals who might be interested in learning how leads work?
Yeah, right across the board. As a football club, and I found this at Sheffield Wednesday as well, is they're looking at all skill sets, all type of individuals, whether you're doing your BSc or you're going to do your masters, or you're working in an environment, but you're looking at your career change, and you've got the skill sets that will enhance what the business is about. Because what we've got to realise within football is that, and like other businesses, they won't just check an internship just for the sake of taking somebody on for 3 months, 6 months, a year. They want that individual to enhance what the business is about and how the business can grow. And that's the key element, is that if you are going to come and do an internship, definitely at Leeds United, it will be an internship that will challenge you.
Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. We get back to the topic. A couple of takeaways from what I've heard so far. So interestingly, looking at the job market, it seems that there is a trend towards hiring at the senior level, but at the same time, because the variety of skills is diversifying, there is also ample space for internships, and also the type of profiles required by football teams, and maybe more in general sports organization, is actually expanding. So it is a fairly vibrant job market, irrespective of the current challenges. Duncan, thank you for joining us today, and it would be great to hear from you as a senior professional in one of the leading media groups. What do you see happening on the market, and what kind of professional profiles and specific skills are particularly in demand at the moment?
Yeah, hi everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me to the panel. It's a privilege to join it. So just briefly about myself and Be-In. So Be-In, I'm sure most people know, but MENA, we're based in MENA. So in Qatar, the main channel is in Qatar, broadcasting across 24 countries in MENA. It's a premium sports entertainment platform. We have 20 sports channels and 9 entertainment channels, and 2 children's channels. And it's all premium content with the biggest sports rights portfolio in the world. So it's a huge amount of sport coming out all the time from the channel. It's all the main leagues, it's the Olympics, it's the Euros, it doesn't stop. So it's a continuous stream of top level sport coming out. Plus we have a presence in 5 continents. So it's a global broadcaster based in Qatar, and the channel is huge. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but here in MENA, it's the biggest sports channel in the world. So 10 studios, very, very big. We broadcast in Arabic, it's obviously the main platform, but we also broadcast in English with 3 English channels and 3 French channels. So it's trilingual, it's a huge amount of content, premium content coming out. My position is to oversee the English and the Arabic production and the entertainment that comes from Qatar. So that's where we are. Obviously, key time, but it's been a really, really interesting year. And in terms of skill sets and employment, it's really interesting because we went from broadcasting 600 hours live sport every week, premium sport. In March, it went to nothing. And then how we reacted to that, and then coming back, and then in May, when the Bundesliga started, the league started, we went to broadcasting more sport than we ever had done before. And now we're faced with that challenge as well because of the way that the leagues are structured. Every game is televised. Events are changing. Globally, everyone's reacting to the COVID when their events are. Things like Roland Garros change, or not one's quite sure. We think the Euros is going to be when it is, the Olympics is going to be where it is, Copa America is going to be where it is. So there's a huge amount of flux with these great big, huge events moving across how we broadcast, which is a unique challenge for us. And then what that does is how that goes down in terms of recruitment and how we look for skill sets. So the obvious skill set that we're doing, we went from having 20% presence at the channel, but we carried on delivering 600, 700 hours a day. So that was working with a huge amount of remote technology, and we had to do it very, very quickly. So that's making content with mobile phones, making content from people's kitchens and bathrooms and balconies, removing the traditional way that we made programs. And so usually I'm sure you'll experience big control rooms with huge amounts of technology and huge amounts of middle-aged men generally operating them. And it changed because it went to creating really, really strong content with just a laptop from somebody's bedroom. And where we are in Qatar, obviously we're taking participation globally. So we would have Ruud Gullit, Arsene Wenger, our main Arabic presenters. They'd be locked down into their country and they would be joining us remotely. So the skill set in terms of sport is how we leverage that digital knowledge and that digital understanding, and that's where it's really a fantastic time to be young, because the skill set it's a dichotomy within the industry that the people with the real skill set and the real ability to do that are the young people coming through, because TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media sites, all the gaming tools. We were using gaming tools for our main commentators, gaming technology to commentate on our key games. These are really, really important games. Champions League finals, Champions League games. We'd be using gaming technology, we'd be using remote technology. So those skill sets are really, really important. And the young people have those skill sets, and they create their own YouTube channels, and that's the skill set that we're looking for. Of course, it's academic levels of expertise that we expect, but those skills really, really give a fast track for what we need. And we were doing our editing remotely, we were doing studios remotely, we were creating content remotely. So it's all those skill sets that we use. So we have a internship here in the channel, which is really, really strong. And as it's spread across all the different departments. So there's a fantastic grounding for the candidates that come into that internship, because you're with all the different sections, but it's a real comprehensive grounding, and then where the suitability of the candidate goes, we assess that. But because of what happened and the way the industry changed so quickly, that became very, very intense. And the young graduates that came in were really, really instrumental and really key to our success, and because their skill set is so easy lendable and develop and can adapt so much to those technologies, as opposed to coming in and maybe traditionally that intern would trail somebody middle-aged and they'd be with them for 4 months, and there's huge amounts of physics and skills in everything they're doing. Suddenly you're working with technologies that really you understand, because everyone's communicating in lockdown, everyone's children are communicating through Fortnite or whatever it is. People need to talk in real time, people need to communicate in real time. And what was great about the lockdown was that also that's what we needed to do. So we adopted those technologies. So the people that understand those technologies, they're the ones that really became key to the channel. And so our internship reflects that, and we have a fast track through that internship and people into the departments. Our entertainment channels, there's 9 entertainment channels, and they are really, and there was no history of entertainment creation within the channel. It's, you know, everyone associates beIN with sport, and it was a sports leader in the region. But when we went into the entertainment, we had no entertainment history within the channel. So our whole entertainment channel, those 9 channels, was built upon graduates. So now we have those graduates who are actually running channels. They'll be running the movie channels, the paid channels. So their knowledge and their understanding of studios, of exhibition, of content is really, really developed, and they run really strong channels, and that's through internship. So we have the sports side, we have the entertainment side, and that's how we recruit. It's a very, very, in terms of, obviously there's been a big hit, everyone suffered from the COVID. Also we've had a very unique situation. I don't know if you're aware of the piracy situation where all our content was pirated by BeOutQ. It's very, very associated with the Newcastle takeover, and not to go into here, but that had a big hit on us as well, obviously with the Saudi market being one of our key markets. So we have had that strike, but in terms of globally, it's really, really strong. And obviously with the World Cup coming, and the millions of 2 million jobs or whatever it is that are associated with the World Cup, beIN is the official broadcaster, so we are engaged with FIFA, so therefore there's projects with FIFA, and again, there's recruitment through that. There is a strength. The challenge we find really is that we are waiting for the flights and being able to bring in talent. So our recruitment is really for young people, and when it opens, there'll be more, of the higher level. But really, our key need is for youth and for that skill set. So I hope that gives you some sort of flavour of what we are and where we are in terms of recruitment.
Thank you, Duncan. I think it gives a very good overview. Thank you for that. And I think it also opens to interesting questions for later in our conversation. For example, I am curious about the dynamics of onboarding a lot of young people in a fast-paced environment at a high technology rate. So that I think is an interesting area, and more in general, fast-paced organizations. But let me move to Noor Al-Thani and Silatech. I believe it would be interesting for us to know how the youth entrepreneurship aspect plays out when it comes to job market, but maybe more important than job market, the skills that some of these young entrepreneurs need to exhibit in order to be successful in their ventures. And so what are the keys of success? And when success doesn't happen, what are lessons to be learned? So Noora, thank you for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mikhail. So basically, good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Noora Al-Thani, Program Officer at Silatech. First, I would like to thank Mikhail and Josoor Institute for this kind invitation and opportunity to represent Silatech perspective on this critical topic, and to share our experience and insights as well on youth entrepreneurship and this critical time for them. First, just to give an overview, the pandemic, of course, as we all know, has had a devastating impact on all of us, especially for young people. As according to the International Labour Organization, almost 1 in 6 young people lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic. Furthermore, the ILO also indicate that since the outset of the pandemic, more than 70% of youth who study and work at the same time have been adversely affected by the lockdown, such as the closing of schools, universities, training centers, and this of course has constituted a barrier for young people to acquire and improve their skills and education. The current situation of young people demands and calls for an urgent need and immediate response to basically curb the effects of the pandemic from all stakeholders, including international organizations, governments, and the private sector. One of the most effective responses is to support youth entrepreneurs and train them to build their capacities in order for their businesses not only to survive the pandemic, but also to thrive. and for them to basically acquire a new set of skills that will help them have a better future and acquire better jobs. And actually, this is what we have been doing at Salatic now and even before the pandemic, ever since 2008. Now, to provide a small brief on Salatic and what we do, for those of you who may not know, Salatic is an international social development, non-governmental, non-profit, socio-economic development organization that connects youth all around the world with meaningful jobs and opportunities. Here at Salatic, we work with international, local, and regional partners to provide young people with the appropriate resources for them to start, to establish, and grow their businesses and enterprises. Till the end of 2019, we have managed to basically create more than 1.7 million jobs for youth all around the globe, along with our partners. And we are now currently working on our target, which is to reach 5 million jobs for young people all around the world by 2022. So now moving on to the job market updates and the new set of skills, it is worth noting that in Africa and the Middle East, there is a gap. There is a gap between the education of youth, which degrees they are pursuing, and the job market needs. To bridge this gap, Salatic has designed and implemented programs specifically to tackle this issue and to upskill young people with a focus on the promising sectors in each country, depending on their development agenda and the best practices of integration, of course, such as hospitality, sectors, and of course, entrepreneurship. A good example of that to share regarding Salatic experience is Salatic Employability Program in Morocco in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism and the International Youth Foundation. This program connects youth across Morocco with in-demand technical and life skills and jobs in the growing sectors and in the growing tourism sector. Through this initiative, Moroccan youth gained the skills, training, and employment services in the critical sectors of the Moroccan economy. Additionally, we have implemented the same concept as well in Comoros, in the called Tourism Capacity Building Program, since the tourism is also a promising sector in Comoros as well. And regarding the skill set, more recently actually, and as a response to COVID-19 and young people pressing need to gain more knowledge and skills, Salatic, in partnership with Doha Institute, launched a capacity building program called Fursa, Opportunity, to provide young people an opportunity to a brighter future. The objectives of this program are many, including strengthening and investing in young people's skills in accordance with the needs of the market. The program trains young people on critical topics and skills, a wide range of topics actually, that we believe will be important assets during and after the pandemic, such as technology and jobs, leadership, innovation in the job market, and entrepreneurship post-COVID-19. The program began in July 2022 and ran for 6 weeks. And thankfully, we are proud to actually say that we were able, with our international, regional, and local partners, to train around 11,500 youth actually from the Arab world virtually. So this is a nutshell. We believe that young people need to acquire a wide range of skills to meet the market needs, depending, most importantly, on the development agenda and promising sectors of each country, as our work in general needs to be aligned and contextualized on each country to achieve more effective outcomes. And of course, the sector of sports and events is indeed a promising sector and an area with huge opportunities, and without any doubt will generate thousands of jobs for young people all around the world. Thank you.
Your last point on contextualization, I think, resonates with obviously the work of Salatic, but also I think indirectly when earlier on we were talking about onboarding, because context means culture and also means the capacity to be able to work with other people in addition to specific skills in technology and management skills essentially that one has to learn. So probably as a follow-up question for the panel, I wanted to go back to this notion of onboarding and maybe more in general how to build a team. The moment you bring in new talent at a very fast pace, certainly with a lot of specific skills. Could be technology, could be very digital generation. But then it is also about the capacity to work with others, either in a small company or in a team or in a large organization. I just wanted to ask our panelists if they could comment on that. Maybe Spencer, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's important, especially from a football club point of view, how you build that team and how you support the team. And you say with new skill sets coming in to the environment, and this is going back to the traineeships and the internships. That's important for a football club because you're getting the opportunity to find out what the strengths are of that individual that comes into your team structure, and I think that's very important. But I'm also a believer of is how you develop your team from the top, and I mean for whether that's a chief exec or a director of education or in Marcelo's point of view from Leeds, is how we created the team structure to be successful, and it's all about the message that comes across from that environment to give the opportunity to the new individual that comes into the sector that they will have opportunities to grow as an individual and have an opportunity to be successful and give across their ideas, which is vitally important. Is not to worry about how you express yourself with new ideas, and that's vital, definitely in the football industry.
Thank you, Spencer. Duncan, would you like to add your comments to that?
Yeah, I think with team, I'm sure it's the same with every industry. It's sort of like it's true of innocence and experience, and having an editorial lead and the ability to lead team. A lot of sort of talked about what a team is, but obviously with live broadcasting, it's really key. And the amount of live broadcasting we do, that the team is really tight, and as soon as that team doesn't work, it reflects on air and the product deteriorates. So for us, it's really a case of strong editorial leadership, but also ability to galvanize everybody's skill set. And but as I was sort of saying earlier, what changed is that skill set is not the prerogative of those that have been doing it for years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. There's a huge contribution can be made from those younger members of the team, and it's very real. You're not doing, you're not training for ages. You're not going from university where you've studied the theory of it for ages to continue studying the theory of it, and you don't get the opportunity to do things here. You really will get the opportunity to actually do things because there's such a demand for it and there's such a need for it. So if you're a value, your value becomes, you're really, really useful, and you can see that use, and therefore you're empowered because you'll become really, really important to the team. And it's not like a rhetorical importance, it's really, you are really important because you can see your contribution makes a difference to the production. Anyone's experienced live production, which we do all the time, knows that that's the key. If you can adapt to that environment, if you can work with that environment, you become really, really important, and your voice is really important. So for me, it's really strong editorial is really important, and to be able to tell the story, but then how the skill sets can manifest itself around that, and especially, as I say, with the younger people, it's really important. It's really, they have the strength to do that. You don't have to wait for ages for your opportunity to do something really valuable. You can do that really quickly, and that's evident. And because we're so stretched with the amount we're doing, it becomes, there's some really great ideas. There's been some really, really strong innovations of what we try to do with our content, especially digitally, mm-hmm. because the way you engage with the viewer has changed, really. It's changed, especially when there's less content. You have to maintain that engagement as much as you can, where you used to take it for granted because people tune in for the event. When the event went, we had to find different ways to create that engagement still, so we wouldn't lose what is the driver of our business, which is people subscribing and staying subscribed, which is a huge challenge when there's no sport.
Interesting. It's almost, I would almost, from what you said, Duncan, it almost seems that to some extent there was one of the positive impacts, if one can say that, of this ongoing crisis, is that there is maybe a faster and better match of certain skills from young professionals into certain industries because of a need and because of the speed at which things now happen and are delivered to users at the end of the day.
You have to be agile, we're a huge business. TV company, we're huge.
Yeah.
But it's the agile that will survive this. And, so you have to be agile, you have to be tight, and you have to be lean to survive, because things change so much. And if you cannot change with it, you'll lose everything. I mean, obviously we're not in control of how the pandemic goes. God willing, the vaccine, and we go back to normal, but even that normal won't be the same. It won't be the same. The engagement, how people have developed things, even things like, there was no enhanced audio before, there's no false crowd effects. Now it's taken for granted. If you don't hear the false crowd effects, it becomes sort of jarring to the ear. It just sounds like a train going background. And virtual health stadiums have adjusted virtually as well, like La Liga, they've got a much more virtual experience. If the pandemic continued, that would carry on as well. And then you're much more into the gaming world, the Fortnite world, and that technologies and people's experiences of that become much more immersed into the stadium experience, because you're in your living room, as opposed to being able to go to the venue. But they would create as much as they can of that in the venue, and that technology is sort of unique to everybody. It doesn't have a history. It doesn't have a, as a company, we're very young anyway, but that sort of side of it, there is no precedent for what's happened.
Thank you. Before I go back to Joao for a further breakdown of the skills, I just wanted to ask Noura a follow-up question, somehow the same question I've just asked Duncan. Noura, do you and your colleagues have the impression, or you observe, that young entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs in the countries in which you operate exhibit a stronger savviness in terms of technology, no matter the challenges that they face in their own countries?
Yeah, so thank you for your question, Mikel. So yeah, basically at Salatic, we actually focus more on smart solutions because we are able to even reach more youth through that. So basically, yes, actually, even though we still target conflict areas and war-affected areas such as Iraq, for example, we do have our e-platform there, which is even comparing to even other countries, it is most successful in the conflict zone as well, regardless of even of the issues there. So yeah, I would say that young people actually are more inclined to basically focus on jobs that are more related to technology. For example, our Ta'mal platform in Iraq, which basically provides job opportunities and for youth, lists the jobs opportunities and courses and so on. I think it is actually most successful in Iraq. So yeah, I would say that the technology does play a role.
Thank you. This is interesting also because the advantage with technology is that you can overcome distances sometimes. So you can work with people across borders. And that's, I think, makes it really meaningful to connect projects like Silatech with the broader market. Thank you. Joao, may I get back to you? Earlier on in the conversation, you mentioned you would further break down some of the skills that are important at the moment. We've heard from the other panelists about some of those. Would there be anything you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. I think I can give a quick breakdown of what's there at the moment. But these things, change, right? Mm-hmm. It's a stronger trend. As Duncan well said, I think digital is, it's everywhere. So sort of almost obvious where the world is going nowadays. If you take, sales is another thing, that there's no business in whatever area you do without sales. So it will always be sort of a requirement. And this times sometimes more than ever, it may be that you might have to be flexible in how you negotiate a contract with an employer. It may be that you might have to take a bit more risk as well, or share that risk with a higher compensation perhaps, if you actually turn that. But from a quick research that my team did just before coming here to the talk, we identified that communications and marketing are two areas where there's a number of different types of companies hiring at the moment. Again, maybe that's not the case in a few weeks. Operations as well, I think that's in a way linked to the positions to events as well. And some project management is some types of positions that are in demand at the moment, at this week, just as I did the research. That might change a little. One thing that won't change, and if you allow me just sort of another 2 minutes, I will get back to what sort of Spencer said in the first thing about internships. You know, you putting yourself out there to learn and get that experience. In a football club, he says, so I would want to expand that. It's not only for football clubs. I think that's any sort of type of industry, it's important. Other skills that might be important, for instance, in a business like mine, I have a team of 5 people, and it's very different than a corporate business where Spencer and Duncan are at the moment. So for me, skills that are super important is I need a candidate that is proactive, right? There is no, in my business, there is no formal training, right? I don't have documents that it's a sort of startup thing. You kind of, we make it as we go. We're building the plane while flying, more or less, right? And of course, because of that, you have to be very flexible and adaptable. Now, and this is also, if I may just finish with some advice that I give to a lot of people, including the masters where I go and I teach, and is that they should look at a broader scope. They must broaden their view of what sort of the sports industry is, if they're looking to work in sports. Everybody thinks about football clubs, about leagues, about even agencies, federations, but there's so much more out there, from consultancies. I started at a small company called SportCal. There's companies like Sport Business or Sports Pro, for instance, that they do research and news, and they can be a great school. Like I just said, I have a 5 people sort of company, started at 2, and I do business with all the major, or many of the major sports companies in the world. And we have a business out of there. And sometimes that's the best school. When I started at a 20-25 people business, dealing direct with the CEO, you kind of get a scope, would go to Sportel, would meet all the companies that go there, the broadcasters, their agency. It's an amazing school, and that opens so many doors. And the last thing I would say is that in terms of roles, we should not forget that there's a few things that are very specific for sports. If you're sort of managing a team, if you're running a sports team, but perhaps 80% or 70% of a sports business is business as usual. So you'll find the same positions that you find everywhere else, right? From HR to finance, to commercial, to communications, to marketing, all that. So I think you have to be attentive to that as well, if that wasn't clear. Because sometimes we think a lot of the sports, doing sponsorship for a brand and dealing with athletes and the glamour, or the operation side of actually managing a match and making that happening. But there's a lot sort of on the background, and there's a way to transit from sometimes one place to the other as well. So one advice that I always give is to broaden your horizons.
Thank you, Joao. I think this also squares nicely with the notion of small companies and boutique advisory or consulting roles, which might actually start in various countries and contexts. So it's I think you open another interesting area of development here. We have one question from the audience. We still have 10 minutes, so we go towards the conclusion. Let me see what we got from the audience. So there is a question for Duncan. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Duncan, but there is a question, I think partly to which you already answered, but Saif Al Nasser is asking, what are the most requested jobs at beIN on the horizon, and if there are opportunities to volunteer or to be, is this something you can comment on?
Yeah, the internship is the best way. I mean, I think how it will evolve as the industry develops. It will be digital. There will be digital social media platform. That's where the industry will go, and the technology involved in that will sort of take over everything. But I don't know if we're broadcasting. So the linear broadcast that we do is the traditional method, but the social media, the digital, that's where content creation is really growing. So from my side, really, that area is the real growth area within the industry, and the skill set working within that, I think, is the really dynamic and the most interesting area to work in. In terms of beIN, it's the internship, so it's HR, but please, if anyone from the institute has I don't know how it works, but please send and I can forward to HR and
sure.
And that sort of side of it, and give all support that way. But that's the answer, really. I think digitally and the social media side. And going back to sort of a point made earlier, the biggest thing with sport, the most important is the qualifications. It has to be a love of sport. The editorial love of sport for any aspect of working in sport is the biggest foundation that you can have, and a strong editorial interest in sport, that's the biggest foundation that you can have, in my experience, of any area of working. If you have that, you will find, and you'll have a really, really strong career within sport, broadcasting, sales, digital, whatever. That love of sport is key.
Thank you, Duncan. Spencer, as we are talking a lot about digital skills, does that mean that, for example, Leeds United works with colleagues remotely? So does every collaboration with your team or your organization implies a physical presence all the time, or maybe this is evolving?
Obviously, from a match day point of view, there's a physical presence, live games or interviews with players and the manager. I think what we found more with obviously lockdown in the UK is that you can do big interviews like we're doing today. So you can have an interview with Marcelo on a Zoom or on a team app. So yeah, and going back to what Duncan's saying, I think digital and media within football is growing, but my sense is that, and I've noticed this over the last 2 or 3 years, is within football the sports science and the sports psychology element of football is coming in and growing enormously. I think because managers are trying to get the last 1% out of a player, and to do that, whether it's from a psychology point of view or analytics and stats, is growing. And I'd love to know, which I should have done before I come on, from some research from universities like the University of Sheffield Hallam, is what the growth is with people coming onto courses, for the sports psychology side of it and the science, because I think that's definitely within football, that's a big growth area that I've seen come, not just at Leeds, by the way, at other football clubs. they are going for that last 1%. So although I agree with Duncan that media and digital is vitally important, and by the way, we've got an owner that owns 11 Sports, so his background is the media and the platforms. But I think if you look at Marcelo, that extra 1%, whether it's the psychology side or the science side, is vitally important. So I think you'll see from a job market that will be the growth within football.
Thank you, Spencer. Okay, in the last couple of minutes that we have, I would like to ask you all a question that we asked also to your colleagues on other panels earlier today and in the past few days at HIWAR and in the last block of the program in sports and events management. One important aspect in personal development is mentorship. And we've all been going through experiences of being mentored or mentoring. We might have been building schemes, mentorship schemes for larger audiences. And that we believe is very important as we think about the professional development of Josoor alumni and more in general of our community. So what I wanted to ask you, would you be able to share either a personal example or an example from your organization of a mentorship experience that has been very valuable to you or to your team, and in what particular circumstances? Joao.
In this kind of sort of mentorship connected to work, what I would say is one thing that worked really well for me to be able to do what I do today was to have some sense of participation in the business. So the CEO of Sport Cal, when I was there, a guy called Mike Laughlin, he was very open about the business, how it was doing, how it wasn't. So a great thing that sort of he did is, even if you came to do a job, pretty much the whole team there was aware of the whole business, how it was going and how everyone was doing. I thought that was great in terms of not only to motivate everyone, but also you're there to learn, right? If you go first as an intern, and I was 3 months after I was hired to be there, I thought it was really cool. You know, I thought there would be more secretive. We keep more secrets, and and this is something that I learned and I try to do as well. So even with a small sort of team, I have young people that normally, you know, the majority of people that started working with me wasn't applying for job posts. They looked for me on LinkedIn, showed that two things. One, that they were truly motivated to do some work with us, that they did some research to do the job with us, and also showed that they could add something to the business. So those are young, motivated people that I think it's almost like an obligation if they're coming as an intern. So I'm not being able to pay them. I do pay them, but not as much as I wanted. I always tell people that whenever I make an offer, this is not what I think it's worth. It's what I can pay at the moment. And but I try to share as much as I can, sort of the business, try to bring them to help me take decisions. You know, when you're the boss, you take the decisions, but I think it's stupid if you don't you listen to people. So because some good ideas can come from there. So this is something that I learned from my mentor, let's say, that I try to pass on as well.
Thank you, Joao. Spencer, what's an experience of yours you would like to share briefly?
Oh, I think I totally agree. I think for mine, it splits into two. Initially from a gentleman called Milan Mandrić, who's obviously well known within the football industry. From his point of view, he opened up my thoughts on the bigger aspect which we've just been going on about around football, that it's just not the job that you do, it's what's around you, and suck all the information in and the knowledge, because football is just not about one department. So that was a great grounding for me, and it drove me into looking at other aspects of football and not just education. So looking how the media team can help you develop the education brand, how the marketing team could be vital to what you do as a business. And just quickly, the other one was, which I've said to people that I work with and brought on board, is the school element. So when you're at school, from a football point of view, we do a lot of mentoring within schools now to open up the idea of what a football club's about, because I know Duncan mentioned before, is that it's not just about being a professional footballer. So what if you don't make it as a professional footballer? I think 1% make it as a professional footballer. Look at all the avenues that's within a football club. So two elements: one, the gentleman who opened my ideas to what a football club's about, and then I think we have to mentor in schools to show people that if you aren't a very good footballer, doesn't mean that you can't work in a professional football environment. So I think the two elements are vitally important.
Yeah. Thank you. Duncan, would you like to share a short experience of yours?
Well, I mean, in terms of mentoring is about me, but that's very briefly, the best mentor I had, not for me, but that helped me incredibly here, was having a really, really good Qatari girl graduate who was brilliant. And then you can get the guitarists that come in, you can say, this is the benchmark. This is the benchmark of where you should be. This is what you should be aiming for. Because it's really difficult for all students coming straight from university to the workplace. That transition is incredibly challenging. You can be the most educated and have the best qualification, but obviously the workplace is totally different. The problem solving is different. You've grown up with a lecturer, a tutor that challenges you, questions you, gets you to work out things, but has the answers. Here, when you go to work, it's not like that. So it was really helpful with a strong graduate Qatari system of bringing in Qatari graduates to have this Qatari graduate who was brilliant, and she could be the benchmark, and she helped me really enormously. She was very young, and it did more than any lecturers from expats or from elders, someone of their age who was creating content and went through all the challenge they did, but it was a real example. That was my biggest mentor.
Thank you, Duncan. Noura, closing remarks for you about your experience.
Sure, thank you, Mikel. So basically, when it comes to Salatic, I may have not clarified this before, but at Salatic we do have the economic empowerment program, which is basically related to basically providing or supporting youth entrepreneurs. But we also have the social empowerment program, where we directly actually have basically direct connection with youth, and this is where we might be able to basically share our experience. So what is most important to us basically in mentoring the youth is facilitation. We believe in facilitation and letting youth take the lead. We believe that anything that is for the youth should be from the youth, should come from them. We also provide a great area for creativity and critical thinking with minimum intervention from Salatic. To share our experience in Salatic, to be more specific, for example, in our social empowerment program, which I basically said it is where we mostly interact with the youth directly, not through the partners. One of our programs is youth advocacy, where we basically train youth to advocate for local and international issues at local and also international platforms relating to the issues that they are facing, such as climate change, unemployment, gender equality, and so on, and peace, and many other issues. And most importantly, they also work on localizing the UN and global SDGs. So as I said, we basically mentor them by letting them take the lead, and we help them when needed by providing them either the knowledge or any assistance they need. And so far, they have conducted actually many and led many events locally and internationally as well. This is also in the youth advocacy program and in our internship program. And they also, for example, other than that, they have been conducting ever since the pandemic many discussions online with virtually that they've been leading them. For example, just a few days ago in one of the international platforms. They were basically facilitating a discussion with the youth all around the world on gender equality and peace. So yeah, we basically believe in facilitation and basically letting youth take the lead.
This is fascinating. I think, thank you, Noor. I think this is it's a good conclusion to a session, which I like to think has raised a number of interesting insights and information and contextual points for our audience to learn more about the current job market, which seems in continuous evolution, partly in the aftermath of the pandemic, but also structurally as a market in which digital skills and other skills seem to be more in demand than they used to be. It seems that there are opportunities for young professionals in terms of getting up to speed very quickly with interesting organizations in sports and media, as long as they are able to share their digital skills and as long as they are able to jump on board in a way that is not disruptive but actually beneficial to the colleagues in the organization. And I really love this concept, Noura, that you shared at the end of facilitation. It's probably in a way this could be the keyword of this session as we wrap up. I would like to thank all the panelists for being with us today. Also, we went a bit longer with time. Please feel free to stay in touch between panelists. This is one of the goals, is also to create new connections, new friends, and develop new ideas. So we look forward for you guys to staying in touch. You don't have to let us know, but it's great for us to know if that happens. And we hope to have you with us on other occasions. Thank you.